And we are live. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Listen, this is the holidays, man. This is the holidays. You're listening to HRS Late Nights right here with Tony Cutillo. I am your host. It's something I started, something fresh, something new. Like I said, there's so many different ways to do this, but I wanted to do this and in my own time, the way I wanted to do it on my platform to build my platform. And this is what I'm doing right here from the local scene. If you've heard me already, you've heard me talking everything from Philadelphia Eagles to Philadelphia Phillies to Philadelphia 76ers, NFL in general. We're going to get into so many different topics tonight. I have a great show planned. I have some guests planned for next week, which is great. Already talked to the great Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Going to be joining me next week to talk a little birds. I'm reaching out to the real Michael B. Again, trying to figure out what's going on with these 76ers. Do they need to add another piece? We're going to talk about it tonight. And as always, we have to talk Eagles because we're an 11-4 team that's getting treated like we aren't 11-4. And I need to know why. And always, as always on this program, we will talk a little WWE. We'll talk a little bit about AJ Styles' return. And if you're feeling, I want to know, are you feeling it? Because I'm not feeling it. And I'm trying to figure out what's going to go on as we approach, obviously, WrestleMania season. Listen, so many different ways to get in this conversation. Okay. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Like the show, subscribe to the channel. That's the biggest thing. Do that. It would be great. My man Adam checking in. What's up, Adam? Merry Christmas to Adam. Big, big, big. Obviously, Eagles fan. I know you had a great Christmas. What are you feeling, Adam? Let me know what you're feeling. Again, if you want to get involved in the program, all you need to comment. If you're on YouTube, you can comment. If you're on Facebook, you can comment. If you're on X now or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you can comment. But this is the best part. This is the best part. You unbelievably can get into the conversation. I'm doing this a little different way. You'll see if you're on Facebook right now, you're going to see a link. I'm going to post a link right now, okay, in the chat. And all you need, here's the best thing. All you need, there it is. It's in the chat, okay? If you're in the chat, that is the link. And all you need is a telephone. Like, this is full audio. I don't care. You could be in your birthday suit. You could be in your pajamas. You could be, in a Dallas Cowboys shirt, whatever you want to be. I don't care because I'm not going to see it. All we want to do is hear. This is live streaming radio, people. This is live streaming radio. So if you want to get involved, you click that link. I'll hop you on and we'll have a conversation. And that's what we're talking about right now. And my man Mike checking in. Mike, AJ Styles looking jacked. And I'm going to get into the AJ Styles talk a little later. We always keep the best, the best talking segment, in my opinion, for last. We're gonna get, but if you want to talk about AJ Styles, we'll obviously talk about him a little sooner because he is. Listen, man, he's jacked. And Mike, if you're a wrestling fan, what does that say to you? What does that say to you? My man is primed for a run, right? He is primed for a run. But the people that are primed for the run might not be the Philadelphia Eagles. And we need to talk about this 11-4 team. We really do it. And I want to do this too, because when I see people that I like and people that I respect in the business, I just saw earlier, I see my man Rob Ellis is filling in on the morning show, him and the great Devin Caney for the next few days on WIP. Must listen to me. If Rob's on, I'm listening. I'm a Rob Ellis guy. Obviously, Devin Caney is one of the most underrated women in sports right now. I'm glad she's finally getting her just due. Another person that I've met, that I've talked to, and that has honestly, so will give you any time that you need tremendous help within the business. So another great person, inside that Philadelphia presence. But listen, Philadelphia Eagles 11-4. I have to ask a few questions. Now, we go back and forth on the timeline, whether it be, and again, make sure you give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you give me a follow. You can follow my personal account at Tony Cutillo RRM. Do that, obviously, because this is a Rise and React Media sponsored show. That is my company, doing all things PR and media. So that's why the RRM is at the end of my name, right? So speaking about the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, if you're on Facebook, give me a comment. If you're on YouTube, give me a comment. If you're on X, give me a comment. If you want to join the show live, the link is in there right now. I'm going to go on X right now, and I'm going to post this link just so everybody knows, okay? Because I want everybody to get involved in this conversation, because the best thing is you just need a phone, man. You just need a phone. I'm going to get it right now. Here we go. Join me. This is the best thing about live radio. Live at this link by phone, right? So now we're on. I just retweeted this. This is on X right now. If you go to my personal account, if you're on a Heat Ratio Sports YouTube account, okay, I'm gonna put this in the chat right now as a thread. You join me live, pop in, okay? I get you on, and all you need is a phone. But Adam checking in says, I think the Eagles will win out, probably number 2 seed, but there is something internal going inside the locker room. What do you think? I'm going to be honest with you. People kept telling me that I was wrong, but listen, this is what I need to understand. And again, if you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure you like and subscribe the channel, hit those likes, smash the subscription. You know the notification bell, right? We know the drill, but looking at the locker room, I looked at that specific time at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, where Sirianni was specifically, looking at Devontae Smith, going back and forth. You saw Jalen Carter rolling his eyes. You saw A.J. Brown kind of looking in disgust, kind of looking away, right? He refused to talk afterwards. Listen, I am not trying to reach here, but what I'm saying is, this is what happens when you start to lose a locker room. This is what happens when people stop buying in. And I don't know why they've stopped buying in. I'm really not sure. But I can honestly tell you, okay, over the years of my experience, and I'd love to hear other people's experiences, but when we've seen this and we saw this, listen, I'm not talking about, a Chargers team that goes out and gets beat and embarrassed by the Raiders, right? I'm not talking about something like that, but a team that we know is very talented and a team that we know, okay, just doesn't look right. So eventually you have to say to yourself, what is it? What is it that's keeping them from not looking right? Is it an internal problem? It's 100% an internal problem. We know this. People are kidding themselves right now if they think this is not an internal problem. Okay, it's 100% an internal problem. Okay, and the issue I have is, again, everybody keeps saying, right? Everybody keeps saying that Nick Sirianni is untouchable. People are crazy for saying Nick Sirianni will not be the head coach next year. People are crazy for talking about. Can I ask you something? Are they really crazy? Seriously, are they really crazy? Right? Because didn't we all say that Doug Peterson was untouchable after winning the Super Bowl? But guess what? He was gone. Why was he gone? Because at the end of the day, this is and always will be Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's team. We could say whatever we want, okay? We could say whatever we want. This is Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's team, okay? And again, the reason why it is because, or I should say, the reason why Nick Sirianni is the head coach is because he was okay knowing it was Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's team. I bring this up all the time. And again, if you're following along, please follow along. Keep the comments coming. Hit the like, hit the subscription button. Again, this is Tony Cutillo, Heat Ratio Sports, HRS Late Nights. It's Monday to Friday show. I'm starting something new every night, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., getting in the conversation. If you want to get live on the air, just pick up your phone, get on the chat, click on the StreamYard link, and I'll get you in. All it is audio. That's it. You could be in your pajamas. You could be in bed. Doesn't matter. You could be in the car, whatever you want, just like calling in the radio. But guess what? It's no wait time. It's no hold time. We might have a three-way conversation. Who knows? But I want to get back to my original point, and that's the Chip Kelly point, okay? The one and only time, remember this, people, the one and only time after Big Red that they decided to relinquish all power of the team was to Chip Kelly. That was Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman saying, we're going to go after that big fish, and probably all Jeffrey Lurie. Okay. And Howie Roseman was probably trying to warn him and try to say, I don't know, Jeff, maybe that's not what we should do. Right. At the end of the day, he probably said, I don't know, Jeff. I don't know if that's what we're supposed to do. He did it anyway. And it blew up in his face. And ever since then, I swear he's probably telling himself and told everybody, I will 100% never do it again. So any coach that ever gets hired on this team is always going to be a yes guy, is always going to be followed to the beat of the drum, right? He's going to be that guy. Speaking of drum, make sure you're following that Blue Coats beat right there, courtesy of Heat Ratio Sports and the Delaware Blue Coats. Your host is yours truly, along with my man, Mr. Master of Basketball, the man himself, Mr. Joe Richmond. But getting back to Chip Kelly, that's why, in my opinion, that there will never be a coach here to have any kind of power whatsoever. My man Mike checking in says, Tony, they only had one throw to the middle of the field last night, went for a touchdown, but the fact that all your throws are going to the boundary doesn't benefit your guys like A.J. Brown and Goddard is ridiculous. Again, some interesting stuff came out about that, Mike, and let me get your opinion on that. And everybody's checking in. Adam's checking in. Javon's checking in. Anybody that's on the line right now checking in, I need to get your opinion because the article did come out about Jalen Hurts taking over some of the play calling responsibilities. Jalen Hurts, giving some more freedom when it comes to calling plays. Okay, so now we're at the simple fact of, is it Jalen or is it Brian Johnson? Is it Jalen or is it Nick Sirianni? All right, so who do we go and blame for some of these deficiencies on the offensive side of the ball? Who is Jalen looking at when he says we need more of a commitment? Right? Is there a little, a little trouble in paradise with him and A.J. Brown? Listen, here's the thing. They always say winning cures all, but it really doesn't. It doesn't. Okay? Winning does not cure all. Okay? A win helps, right? A win helps. And again, you heard Jordan Davis yesterday said, man, we really needed this. I can't tell you how big this is. That's great. That's all well and good. But again, you gave up 14 points to the New York Giants that were not needed. Okay. You did not need to give up 14 points to the New York Giants. Okay. You were playing dual quarterbacks out there that both of them are on the all-time bum squad. Okay. So I don't want to hear about a win is a win. It's really not. And still the offense at the first drive looked inadequate. It just looked inadequate. It looked average again. And I'm trying to figure out why a team that has Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith can't figure it out. And a guy who's breaking the record, okay, already has 15 touchdowns himself in Jalen Hurts. And for some reason, this team cannot move the ball. It's odd, man. It's really, really odd. Mike says it's like Dougie P year 2 or 3. Exactly. My man Javon checking in says, could the unprecedented Super Bowl run last season put higher expectations on this team? And they are all trying to live up to those, which has led to all this. A great point, right? It's a great point. I was actually just talking about this with my dad over the holiday. And, for the specific reason that, again, exactly what Javon says, like, it wasn't lightning in a bottle last year, but everything that we did last year kind of worked, right? Until obviously we lose in a big game, but everything up to a point just worked. And sometimes, when you do that and things just work, it kind of hides some of those inefficiencies that maybe we're not accustomed to seeing. And now, not only are we seeing that, but like Javon's saying is, everybody's trying hard. It could be why Jalen Hurts is trying for that long ball all the time, trying to live up to those expectations, right? This is a very prideful young man, okay? Got paid a lot of money, right? So it probably hurts him more that he's playing bad than it hurts us, right? He takes the heat for himself worse than anybody else. And that's why I hate when people consistently try to rip Jalen Hurts down. And, I really hate it. It annoys the hell out of me. It really does because, again, this guy wears his emotions on his sleeves. Now, I will say that some of the things going on this year, are a little different. right? They're a little different. We may not be used to seeing it, like we normally are. But the thing is, the disgusted look of my man AJ Brown, the disgusted look of my man Jalen Hurts, and not just that. Last year, that Jalen Hurts was in the face of AJ Brown, right? But this year, he just goes on to the side, right? He just goes on to the side and he just sits there and he kind of ponders, and it almost looks like he feels bad for himself, right? And I'm never used to seeing that from him. So again, I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know. But one thing's for sure, something has to change. And not only does it have to change, but something is going to come out. And maybe we won't like it. Maybe we will. I'm not sure. But something is definitely going to come out. Now, Adam says maybe Jalen is changing the plays once Brian Johnson calls and Jalen likes to pass on the outside. It could be, right? It could be, Adam. And that's going to be the interesting thing. The interesting thing is who is actually calling these plays. And if they're being called, are they being audible at the line? Are they being changed at the line? Like, these are the things that we have to talk about. Mike says Hurts has definitely regressed, but it's a mixture of him and Johnson, in my opinion. He's not reading defense as well, and someone is calling these damn wide receiver screens to Julio too much. Asinine. Great point. Listen, I love Julio Jones. I think he's had a phenomenal career, but you don't throw a wide receiver screen to Julio Jones. It just, again, if you're going to throw a wide receiver screen to anybody, okay, besides AJ Brown, it's going to be Zacchaeus. If people remember him in Atlanta, he thrived off the wide receiver screen. Why are we not using Zacchaeus more in a wide receiver bubble screen mode? Why are we not doing it? The guy has tremendous speed. I don't understand. Again, we're not utilizing the player. Is it because we're afraid? Is it because that they're afraid to not get the ball in the hands of those specific playmakers? Right? You heard Sirianni in the past already say this offense revolves around those 2 to 3 guys. I mean, is that the problem? Listen, all it is it's a ton of different things that are all culminating into one. And the problem is that one thing is one of the biggest, right? Biggest issues is that we can't figure it out. Now, Javon has a great point. Again, funny enough, one of their successful wide receiver screens happened with Mr. Covey. And we know about Covey, right? Rick Covey, he's got tremendous jets. And that's the kind of guy that you put in a wide receiver screen. So in my opinion, that's a great point, Javon, because I forgot. I'm not even thinking about him, right? Not even thinking about him. So, why would you throw a wide receiver screen at Dallas Goedert? Why would you throw it to Julio Jones when you have a guy like Covey? You have a guy like Zacchaeus. 2 guys, they're just speed guys. And at the end of the day, if you have 2 guys that are speed guys and you have a guy that looks like the second version of Terrell Owens, the way he's cut in A.J. Brown, and you got a guy like Dallas Goedert, who is huge and a behemoth at the block, they're out there blocking, man. They're out there blocking, and you're going to roll your center over, right? You're going to roll your center over. And then boom, what's going to happen, man? Like this is the crazy thing to me. This is the crazy thing to me. That we're not utilizing the playbook correctly, or our players, man, or our players. We got somebody backstage. We got Commissioner Tony. I want to hear who this is. Commissioner Tony. Commissioner Tony, you are live on the line, man. Unmute your mic if you can. Can't unmute. There you are. Who's this?
Commissioner Tanya McKenzie.
Oh, Tanya. Oh, man, listen. Are you going to give us the 49ers love here? You're going to give us the 49ers love, aren't you? I know it's coming.
Dude, I'm like losing my shit about this. But as a Bay Area native, I have to say I'm really happy that the Raiders were not looking as crazy as they usually do as of late. So, I'll just hang my hat on that because the Warriors also lost. So Christmas sucked for me. Okay, Christmas.
Yeah, listen, you're like Dub Nation, man. What's going on there? Like, I have to. I got to ask you 2 things because you just brought up the Niners. So, like, are we wrong for saying that people are like kind of? I wouldn't say happy, but saying, well, look, Brock Purdy looked actually average for once. Like, is this the guy, or do you think it was just that one big game?
He's the guy. I just don't think they were playing for anything. Like when they're playing for something, they play up. They weren't really playing for anything. And that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Warriors, they're still trying to figure it out. This wouldn't be the first year that our coach is trying to figure it out through, let's say, All-Star weekend, right? He has to go
Yep.
through this every year. So for the Niners, I think they just weren't playing for anything. They've already clinched, right? So they're going to the playoffs. We're done with that. And for the Warriors, their coach is still just trying to figure it out.
So what's up? So I gotta ask you about Draymond. Like, what's because it's a shame, because I get the guy's passion, I do, but it's like over and over and over again, and he's kind of taken bad press. I mean, obviously as a PR person, again, it said Commissioner. Only thing came on my screen, so no, it said Commissioner Tony. I didn't see the A, so I'm like, who's Commissioner Tony? Like, I'm like, this is interesting. Again, it's Tanya McKenzie. You see her on the line right here, PR reputation specialist. You can follow her at Tanya McKenzie PR, and listen, she's a Dub Nation person. She's a San Francisco fan, which is great because this is what we're talking about. And Draymond Green, like, what do you see the outcome here? Because this is something that we've seen year after year. I don't know if he can get over this.
Yeah, actually, I think he can. It's almost like the John
Interesting.
Morant thing. It's like they're like bad kids to a certain extent. It's like I will go as far as you let me go. And this has been going on for a while. It's not like anyone on the team has come out and defended him. So I know at some point someone had to be like, dude, you got to, chill or pull back a bit. He doesn't, because what happens? He usually just gets a slap on the wrist, right? So now he's to the point where it's like, all right, sir, your career could be at stake. So you might want to go ahead and pull back. Listen, the guy is smart as a whip. It's not like
Yeah.
he's not. He's out in Silicon Valley making money hand over fist. It does not. Um, this situation does not define him. I think he knows better. It's just at this point, officials have to start doing their official job and letting them know, okay, no more of this playing up to your brand. Because truth be told, it was on brand for him. It's on
Yes.
no, there's nothing that happened where people are like, "Oh my god." Like, are you kidding me? This is completely on brand. So, at this point, it winds up being, what are the repercussions if I keep pushing the limits? It's like a bad child. What are the repercussions? Well, when you start taking their stuff and you start putting them on restriction and you let them know, you're about to be grounded all summer. Oh, I probably should go clean my room and act like I got some sense. I don't think this defines him. I just think that they should have done something about this long before.
You make a great point about the referees, because I've said it again. Like, they're playing into him. Like, eventually you have to show your supreme authority. You have to finally say, listen, because other players are looking at it and saying, why does he get away with some of the things? I mean, we look at it in Philadelphia too, by the way. Like, you look at Sirianni on the sidelines, like, he's really giving it to some of these referees, and I'm like, wow, like, his leash is extremely long. Like, eventually somebody's gonna have to step in and be like, yo, man, it's enough. Like, we finally had enough.
I think that I don't know if this is a conversation with the league and with refs, but it almost seems like certain things are a part of a player's brand and they just continue to let them do that. Don't forget, this is still entertainment and they still need to make the money. But you want to look at something like, let's say, Shaq. Come on. Shaq did what he did for his whole career. And sometimes they would get him and sometimes they would let it go. You know what I'm saying? Kobe
Yep.
had this little like foot thing he would do sometimes. Half the time it was traveling, but they stopped calling it on him because that was a part of his game. There are things that players do that I think refs continue to let them do it because it's a part of their game, which means part of their brand, which means people pay to come see them do all the things that they do. Draymond is like Debo on Friday. Okay, people know what to expect from him, and some people come to watch to see what's going to happen. There are people, you can't tell me there aren't fans that actually come just to see who Draymond is going to punch, trip, kick, try to Debo on the basketball court. So I do think there are players that have a certain thing that the refs and the league continue to allow them grace while they do that, because again, it's still entertainment.
That is true. I mean, listen, we dealt with it in the '90s with Dennis Rodman, right? So,
That's what I'm
Dennis, right?
saying. Like,
It
come
was the
on.
same thing, right? I mean, it's just the modern version of Dennis Rodman, right? I mean, it's it's just crazy though because in
And you
today's
hear
NBA,
Detroit Piston, and you hear Detroit Piston players, older players, s- talk about that now. Like, oh, we gave way to this Draymond Green thing. Okay, that is letting you know we were doing this to a certain extent. They were letting it go, and now it has gone too far. So these players are already saying it. He's getting that from us because we did this, and we were allowed to get away with it.
it's a good point. No, it's a great point, and it's going to be interesting to see how far Adam Silver wants to take it. At the end of the day, it's a business. We all know that, but depending on what kind of pressure he gets from outside entities, because we know how that works, it's going to depend on how long he's going to keep him out and what the recourse is going to be. I mean, listen, John Morant, you brought it up. John Morant came back quietly. Like they didn't make a big deal about his return. Like it wasn't like all over the billboards. It wasn't like it was just quietly that, and yeah, he did great, but that's the thing. They can pick and choose the way they want to rep these players whenever they want.
Yeah, he came back quietly and he did the work.
Yep.
So I expect Draymond to do the same thing. Come back quietly, do the work, get the win. Period.
That's going to be interesting. Let me ask you this before, because I know this is late, and well, it's late on my. You're on the West Coast, so what's it like 7 o'clock right now? 7:30.
It's 8:30. It's 8:30.
8:30. It's not bad. That's not bad. Did you all your years in PR and reputation management? Have you ever repped an athlete?
I have.
And not to get into who it is because we don't talk about that, but just what were some of the obstacles that you had, or trying to represent those athletes? Was it a lot of obstacles, or was something you kind of you accepted, or you kind of expected getting into it?
Um, you have to be hyper aware of what you're getting into,
Hmm.
but also building trust. So when
Yeah.
things are coming up, you can get in front of them or at least give them a roadmap on how to deal with them if they become public or when they become public. So I think it has a lot to do with trust and trusting your team, building that trust, and then allowing for the professional to guide you. So there are times that we have avoided drama and salaciousness in the headlines because the trust was there and it was like, hey, this is what's coming. Oh, okay. Let me get on top of this right now and show you how to wordsmith it to make sure that we stay out of trouble. But I don't particularly take on um clients that would be just reckless. I just don't. And it's
Right.
it's a part of the conversation. Like, hey, accidents happen, life
Yep.
happens, especially when you're talking about young players.
Oh yeah.
But don't just be out there acting a fool. Like, I don't have time to deal with that because there's still work to do when we're trying to build your brand and make sure that brands want to partner with you, right? So
Yep.
you put your foot in your mouth and you get in your own way. That's you know it's you, but we make sure we have that conversation and we solidify a level of trust moving going into it.
No, that makes complete sense, and it's like even though they're athletes, we treat them like any other client that we would represent, right? You do the back search, you do the background, you look at what their brand is now, maybe what their tendencies are, and then you have that conversation of expectations. Like, look, man, like I have my own children. I don't need another child. Like that's not what I'm trying to do here. So if we're trying to brand build and we're trying to get your reputation up, you have to play a part in it too. So I mean, it's good to know because I mean I've never personally represented an athlete, but I know. Listen, with the NIL and everything coming up, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people like us to be able to do that.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, I wanted to tune in. I saw that you were live.
I
So glad we
appreciate
were
it.
able to connect, and I'll keep
Yes,
on listening and supporting.
it sounds great, man. I really appreciate it, Tanya, and I hope you have a great new year going into
Absolutely.
2024. I know we'll both be busy and we'll both be on our way to success. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep, absolutely. All right, happy 2024.
Thanks, Tanya. Appreciate you joining me. Have a great night.
You too. Take it easy.
And that was Tanya McKenzie. Listen, you meet a lot of different people in the space, right? And I say this all the time, which is awesome. Like Tanya is absolutely awesome. And again, here's a person that does it all: mother, wife. She has, again, a lot of kids in sports. She's a workout warrior. She's a great PR reputation specialist. You see it right there. She's taught me a lot. I've been on her show. She does a lot of brand management. And it's great because, she used to do a weekly PR lunch hour. She does it every now and then now because everybody gets a lot of very, very busy. And she brings up these topics. And that's what's great. Like you can cross over. And that's why I tell everybody all the time that's why I love the world of media and PR. Like media is such a huge word. And I tell people that all the time. It's such a huge word. And it's a huge word. And it's a great word because it brings a lot of people together, man. Like I love talking to Tanya. It's so awesome that she called in. I really appreciate that. Just because she has such a great view on several different things. You heard it. She brought up some great points I didn't even think about, like, with the Draymond Green situation. And one of them specifically is about the the referee, the freedom that they allow him to have, right? And we see that again with Nick Sirianni. Now, going back to, our previous conversation, of the Eagles, let's start with this one. Let's start with the question of, is Nick Sirianni on the verge of losing the locker room? Right. And I have to ask it, right? Whether you want to answer it or not, we have to think about this point here. And, listen, I know nobody wants to talk about it. I know nobody wants to think that it's going to happen. I understand, but you have to look for the signs. And when those signs come out, they're the ones that you have to look for. And sometimes they're right in front of us, right? Sometimes they're right in front of us, but we don't want to see it. And I think that's what us Eagle fans right now are trying to do. We're trying to say, I'm blind. I want to be blind right now. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see players that are kind of shrugging their shoulders. I don't want to see players that are not satisfied. I don't want to see a Jalen Hurts that's not smiling. I don't want to see AJ Brown that's consistently saying he doesn't want to talk to the media because he's got nothing good to say. I don't want to hear about why Jalen Carter didn't have a lot of snaps. I don't want to hear about this, man. I don't want to hear about, again, Ringo goes out there and plays well. Why all of a sudden, right? Why all of a sudden? What is going on, right? What is going on? Listen, Nick Sirianni looks exhausted, right? He looks exhausted. And again, sometimes we saw this, right? We saw this with Big Andy Reid. We saw this when nobody wanted to admit that he might have lost the locker room. We saw it so many times, right? So many times. And I think that this is something we have to start looking at. Now, Adam says, who do you think will be gone next year? Sirianni, Brian Johnson, Sean Desai. I think Sean Desai is already gone. I do. And it sucks for Sean Desai. Listen, I don't know a lot about Sean Desai, but what I'll tell you about Sean Desai, what really sucks for Sean Desai? It's Sean Desai was the guy that they didn't want, right? Sean Desai was the guy they just kind of grabbed at the time because of the Jonathan Gannon situation, because of Vic Fangio going to Miami. They wanted Vic Fangio. Listen, think about this. And again, you're listening to HRS Late Nights right here with Tony Cutillo, brought to you by Heat Ratio Sports and Rise and React Media. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you're subscribed to the channel and you're liking the show. Again, this is going to be a Monday to Friday, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is an all-audio program. As you heard, the great Tanya McKenzie coming on from the West Coast to talk a little PR, talk a little Dub Nation, and talk a little San Francisco 49ers and reputation management. Listen, she joined from a phone. Okay, the link is there. All audio. Like I said, I don't care if you're in pajamas, your slippers, your birthday suit, whatever it is. Doesn't matter, man. Let's just have a conversation. This is just like the radio, except you don't have to wait. There's no catch here, man. Click the link that's in the Facebook post. Click the link that's on Twitter right now. Click the link that's on YouTube, and I'll get you on the line. Now, Mike says, Like Cam Newton said, there's a difference between game managers and game breakers. And when things are not clicking around the game managers, they fall apart. And we saw what Baltimore did to Purdy. Listen, two things about, because I'm going to get into Baltimore. Okay. And I'm going to hold that mic for a minute. So keep listening because I got some stuff to talk about with Baltimore that people don't look at. And I think that they should. But real fast about Vic Fangio, think about what's going on. Like Adam says, Adam says Matt Patricia is no better. I actually disagree. I think Matt Patricia is a brilliant defensive mind. I really do. And here's what happened. Let's rewind, right? Super Bowl, right? Nobody knows what Jonathan Gannon's doing. Now, before Jonathan Gannon, right? You could tell that they weren't a huge fan of Jonathan Gannon. They brought Vic Fangio in to be their defensive assistant, right? Defensive assistant, senior advisor, Vic Fangio. Okay. Guess what Matt Patricia's role is? The same damn thing. They're doing it all over again, right? But the problem is they wanted Fangio, and he had already left for Miami because Jonathan Gannon wouldn't make up his mind. Okay, soon enough, and kind of played his cards deep to his chest and didn't give them the courtesy of saying that he was going to go and take that interview during Super Bowl week. And then they let Vic Fangio go. Now they have nobody. Now that's why the search was like, oh my God, who are we going to look at? And again, you saw the guys that came in, guys like Vance Joseph that I think we all liked. But what if Vance knew? Vance knew right away. He walked in and was like, wait a minute, I'm going to have no freedom whatsoever. Like, I got nothing. This team is not run by Nick Sirianni. This team is run by guys like Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. And Vance was like, nah, I'm out, right? They also needed somebody to come in there and know that they probably were not going to be a head coach because they had so much invested in Nick Sirianni, right? So they go after Sean Desai, who has a little bit of lineage, in Chicago. It wasn't a great defense, but he did build some players out there. He did have some camaraderie, but he's just the guy, the wrong guy in the wrong place, right? At the wrong time. That's what Sean Desai is. So I think, unfortunately, I do like what they did, right? They put him up in the booth. They gave him another role. They nicely, kind of gently said, yeah, kid, you're gone. But that's okay. That's fine. I do believe that Matt Patricia is one of those guys that, we talk about this all the time, guys that are defensive coordinators, right? First, head coaches second. And I think that is exactly again what Matt Patricia is. He's not going to be a head coach, right? But what he's going to do, what he's going to do is he's going to be a guy, that can run a brilliant defense, right? So again, it's going to take some time. No, don't think that this is going to happen overnight. And it's why I keep saying all the time, everybody's talking about is it going to happen overnight, man? Listen, I know he's been there and he was a player, but you saw it this week. You start to see it. Okay, you start to see he put Ringo in better positions, right? You saw Shaq Leonard, right? We saw Shaq Leonard making some plays. Okay, got his first sack since 2020. He was around the ball. Okay, there were certain things that Matt Patricia was trying to change up and do. Okay, I know it was the New York Giants, but again, he was experimenting. He was trying to see because he knows that Shaq Leonard can still play. He understands that. He knows that. But I'm going to be honest with you. He also probably knows Darius Slay's limitations more than anybody else. He probably knows James Bradbury's limitations better than anybody else. And he's probably not ashamed to check them. Now, again, I keep saying this, these young guys on this team, it's not like these young guys came from a Division III school. These guys weren't undrafted. Listen, man, they came from Georgia, man. They came from an unbelievable program. These cats know how to play, right? Maybe they just got to learn a playbook. Maybe they just got to get a little bit of trust. I don't know what it is, but it was nice to see Nolan Smith out there making plays. It would not, even though it was an injury, it was nice to see Ringo out there making plays. Again, it was nice to see some of these young guys making plays. Now, the other side of the ball, look what happens, right? You run the ball. and things happen, right? You run the ball and things happen. And I'm not sure why we keep getting greedy with this pass. I feel like it's not just us. Like, if you looked at that game, what was something that was eerily similar? You looked at that San Francisco 49er game, and why weren't they running in the beginning with Christian McCaffrey? Like, all of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan goes away from a run and he wants to go pass heavy. Doesn't make any sense to me. Especially when you get a guy like Kyle Hamilton out there running around, who, God, I'm still crying over that. Just to, I tweeted something now. What if, right? Hindsight being 2020. Look at this right now. Remember, 2022 draft. Kyle Hamilton goes 14th overall. Okay, 14th overall. Guess who goes 13th overall to the Philadelphia Eagles? That would be none other than Jordan Davis. Right. So again, I, for one, wanted Kyle Hamilton. I know my man Coach Dave wanted Kyle Hamilton. Okay, because we needed a guy in the secondary, and that kid is an absolute stud from the safety position. And think about all the safeties we've been going through back and forth and here and there. It would have been very simple. So see, nobody's going to talk about that. So instead, we got a guy who's an absolute beast, which is great, who's caused double, but it's not helping to stop the run. He can't play a ton of snaps, and he may never, ever be that overall number one pick that we expect him to be. There's like a Derek Barnett, right? A guy that we drafted, but may not actually amount to being that guy when you had a chance to get Kyle Hamilton. But again, nobody's looking at these things because, again, Howie made everybody happy by doing the other things, right? Howie made everybody happy by doing the other things. And I think that's something that we always look past. We always look past. Now, my man Mike checking in says, 2 real quick side notes on wrestling in case I forget. Tonight's MSG Madison Square Garden live event was sold out and was I love this. Thank you. I love when my man Mike, part of the Dynasty Dogs, I'm going to forget, part of Dynasty Dogs of Win Daily at Win Daily Sports. Make sure you give us a follow at Win Daily Sports, and you listen to the Dynasty Dogs. Mike and Rich doing a fantastic job this year from the fantasy content for Dynasty. Right, gives us some number here. Says was the highest grossing non-televised event in WWE history. And CM Punk wrestled, which I saw. He wrestled Dominic Mysterio and put him to sleep. CM Punk equals money, right? CM Punk equals money. Listen, the WWE right now is the hottest it has ever been. The WWE is literally sizzling right now. It's literally sizzling right now. It's been so goddamn hot. Again, if you're listening live right here on YouTube, again, this is a audio only live stream right here. Late Nights with Tony Cutillo. I am Tony Cutillo, Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you're liking the YouTube page. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube page. Make sure you're liking the show. If you're on Facebook, you can get involved by either commenting or clicking on the link. If you click on the link that's posted in YouTube, in Facebook, and on X, it will bring you live on the show. I will put up your name, where your location's from, your obviously your social handle, whatever you want, and then the conversation is yours. The floor is yours. Let's have a conversation. Do you think Nick Sirianni makes it this year? Do you think Sean Desai makes it this year? Are you confident the Eagles still make a Super Bowl push? Do you think it's Jalen Hurts? Do you think it's Brian Johnson? Do you think it's fixable? Do you think it's fixable? Right? And that's what I need to ask. And I'm going to ask that right now. Okay? I'm going to write, are the Eagles fixable? And that's a good word. Are the Eagles fixable? Right? Because that's what we're asking. Are they fixable? And I need to know, because I'm not too certain that they are. Everybody keeps talking about, well, last year they came in slow, and last year, they didn't come. They came into the playoffs kind of limping, and they called five. Listen, this isn't last year, man. This isn't last year. There's some stuff that's wrong right here that they're trying to fix on the fly. They're trying to fix so much on the fly that my man Nick Sirianni looks like he hasn't slept in a month. Right? He looks like he hasn't slept in a month. He's walking around looking like Bubbles from The Wire. Okay, his eyes are so bugged out. You see him in the press conference, my man is exhausted because he is racking his brain trying to figure out what the hell is going on with his football team. And again, we don't know, but obviously it's something that's not good, and it's something that, in my opinion, it can't be fixable yet. It's too late in the game, man. It's too late in the game. Mike says, not while Brian Johnson's the OC. We got to figure out who the problem really is. Unfortunately, he is the scapegoat. I 100% agree. 100% agree. Brian Johnson is the scapegoat, right? He's the scapegoat. Simple as that, right? You know, we're going to make the change to Brian Johnson, and boom, there you go. Now all responsibility and accountability is off of everybody else. But here's the thing, right? Even though he is the scapegoat, I'm going to say this wholeheartedly. Okay. I'm going to say this wholeheartedly. Just remember something. You know, Howie Roseman spent a lot of Mr. Lurie's money. Okay. A lot of it. He not only in money value, but also in assets, right? He gave away a lot of assets in order to try and build this team. He spent a lot of money, okay, extensions to try and build this championship team again. They're not going to take this, oh, well, we'll get rid of a scapegoat. We'll try to see what happens next year. Make no mistake about it. They are not patient. Right? They are not patient. They understand how small the window is in the NFL. They saw a 49ers team that kind of got embarrassed. They saw a Chiefs team that still isn't it. They saw a Buffalo team that still isn't elite. They saw a Miami Dolphins team that still isn't elite, right? So they saw the Dallas Cowboys see who they really were for themselves. Okay, so they know that this is an opportunity this year. The opportunity is there. And they've spent too much damn money in their eyes for it to just go away. And that's why I don't think there's even a scapegoat here. That's why I keep saying that. Yeah, people were making statements and everybody said it was ridiculous to say Nick Sirianni was coaching for his job. I honestly, I kind of think he is, man. I kind of think he is. This is a win now league, man. This is a what have you done for me lately league. And that's what makes the tenure of guys like a Mike Tomlin and a John Harbaugh so damn impressive. So damn impressive. Because they've been able to build a trust so much with their players and their organization to continue the longevity, right? To continue that longevity. And that's not an easy thing to do, man. That's not an easy thing to do. And I'm going to get more on that Baltimore stuff later. Now, Javon says, from an on-field perspective, yes, he feels the Eagles are fixable. He says if they can eliminate the turnovers, that will go a long way on offense. They need to simplify the game. I couldn't agree more, man. We throw a slant, it goes for 16 yards, I swear, every time. But for some reason, we throw one of them, we get away from it. Right? I don't understand. We run the ball, pound the rock, boom, boom, boom. We're picking up 6-7 yards at a clip. Then all of a sudden, we want to start throwing down the field. We want to start throwing skinny posts. We want to start throwing bubble screens. We want to start throwing stuff that doesn't work, right? Trying to make the game more difficult than it really is, right? So that's a great comment by Javon. Okay, because again, like he says, simplify the game, man. Simplify the game. And I'm telling you, I mean, we all say we act like it's easy, right? But it's easier said than done, man. I'm telling you, like we say that, but unfortunately, these coaches and these players and they are, listen, they're losing sleep over this too, but what they see is what we see. But the thing is, there's so many different terminology issues within it, and there's so many different adjustments that need to be made that even though we think it's easy, it's probably not, right? It's probably not. But the simple fact is, are they seeing it, right? And I feel like they did see it on the first drive, and then something happened again. Right? Then something happened again. I'm telling you, I'm telling you now, I have a very big suspicion that there's a lot of animosity against Jalen Hurts this year from his players. A lot of animosity. I really, really do, man. I really, really do. I can't say it enough. My man Jamie checking in says Smith, or my man or woman, I'm sorry if it's Jamie, Jame. Smith should be more involved. Only has 10 targets last two games. Listen, and you could see that, right, Jamie? You could see that when he specifically said, "No, I'm not happy." Right? There's more work to be done. There's more work to be done. Right? I mean, listen, here's a guy who's not happy, right? Why is he not happy? He's not happy because he understands the offense needs to do better. It needs to be spread out more. Things shouldn't be forced. Of any player that's open more than anybody that doesn't get the looks, it's probably Devontae Smith. And you have to remember something. Like, the time's coming up too in that wide receiver room where you're 100% going to have to pick AJ or Devontae. And that's a conversation for another day, but it's who are you going to go forward with? You going to go forward with Devontae, or you go forward with AJ? Very, very interesting. Jamie, thanks for joining the program. Make sure you like and subscribe if you can. If you want to get live on the line, if you want to talk right now, live on the line, all you do is click that link. Click that link that says StreamYard. You'll get on. It'll ask you for your name. Type in your name. Okay, I'll throw it up on the banner where you're calling from, what your point is, what your handle is. If you want to get on the air, and again, you're just talking through a phone. That's it. Nobody sees anything. No matter what. You're just comfortable, just like you would be driving down and calling somebody on the radio, whether it be 97.5, whether it be the Fanatic, whether it be WIP, whether it be 97.3, whether it be the Gambler, whatever it is, doesn't matter. There are tons of radio stations out there, but listen, I want to be comfortable. I want to do this here. And I just want to speak to the audience. So yeah, I mean, I would hate to say, as we wind down the first hour of the show, we're about 3 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute break, at 55 on the hour, take a little break, come back, and talk a little Sixers. I want to talk a little Tyrese Maxey. I want to talk about, I get it was only one game, but did that game show us the reason why we do need another scorer? Because, when Joel Embiid is out, which he's out again the next game, before the ankle treatment, are we going to have another guy to consistently step up? Now, odds are him and DeAnthony Melton are not going to both shoot deplorable statistics, right, on the same night all the time. And I'm sure Tyrese is still working on his game right now as we speak at 11:55 a.m. on the East Coast. But at the end of the day, we have to look at it and say, when we get in these big game situations and we get in these 5 to 6 to 7 game series, is what we have enough? And I think that's what Daryl Morey's looking at. I think that's what Nick Nurse is looking at. And I think that's what they're trying to find out. And I think depending on what they find out is depending on if they make a big move, a small move, whatever it is. I'm just not sure, where that is going to go. I also want to talk about, I want you to think about this before we go to break too. I want to talk about underrated NFL head coaches. Are we overlooking some of the most brilliant coaching seasons of a couple people? One in particular that I think does not get enough credit at all. One of them doesn't get enough credit, and he's got a tremendously long tenure with the same team. And you probably know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about that on the other side. So again, keep it locked right in here. Heat Ratio Sports. This is HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo. We're going to go to 1 a.m. We started at 11 live. Take a break for 3 to 4 minutes. Going to play some music in the background. Tell you we will be right back. And then we're going to pick up some 76ers conversation. We're going to pick up some NFL underrated coach conversation. And then some WWE talk. A lot of extensions going out. The last show we talked about Bailey getting extended. Obviously, we talked about CM Punk signing a multi-year deal. Charlotte Flair gets extended. But I want to talk specifically about AJ Styles. The new look, the black look. He's absolutely the physical nature of AJ Styles looks like a man possessed and a man ready to go on a title run. But is there going to be a title for him to grab? And do you like the new persona of AJ Styles? I'm not a fan right now. I'm not a fan. I think they took away all his personality with this role, which I kind of don't like at all. I wanted him on the mic. I think him with Logan Paul or him with the CM Punk, on the mic going back and forth, him with the Roman Reigns, I think would be absolute gold from a promo standpoint. So I think they took that away from him. But we're going to get in that conversation in a minute. But again, Heat Ratio Sports, I'm Tony Cutillo. We'll be right back right here live on Heat Ratio Sports. Think about those coaches you want to talk about. Think about the 76ers moves. And think about that WWE question about AJ Styles. We will be back in about 3 minutes with more HRS live right here with Tony Cutillo. And we are back, man. That was a much needed break. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. This is HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo, right here on Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports on all social formats, Instagram, obviously Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and make sure YouTube. Again, make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel and you're liking this stream. And if you want to get involved, like I say this all the time, I'm treating this again like a radio station. So if you want to get involved, all you need to do is click on that link that's in the chat. It will get you live. You heard the great Tanya McKenzie on me earlier. I got some guests planned coming up for next week. And again, this is going to be a very live, interactive show. Comment, hit the link, join in, whatever you want to do. If you're listening to after hours, in the morning on your drive to work, man, you got a point. I'm going to give you an email soon. You could have it. I'm going to have a email bag, and I'll read them on air, whatever they are. I'd love to hear anything that the audience has. Now, real fast, when we go into the Sixers, because, we got De'Aaron Fox, going for 50 tonight. For Sacramento and Portland. Right now, the De'Aaron Fox, he is at 41. Sabonis with 32, De'Aaron Fox at 41, man. Like, and this game right now, Portland's up 122-105, so 9 points. He hits 50. Brooklyn gives Detroit their 27th straight loss. The Pistons lose again. Crazy, man. Crazy. Memphis goes in overtime, gets over the Pelicans 116-115. Indiana 123-117 over those Houston Rockets. Charlotte 127 over the hapless Wizards. 112. We got Utah going over the Spurs. And again, tomorrow night, the Philadelphia 76ers travel to Orlando, take on the Orlando Magic. And listen, our Delaware Blue Coats just got back from the Winter Classic from Orlando, representing. They're back in action tomorrow night, as well at the Chase Fieldhouse Center. So make sure you go check them out. And if you go there, make sure you tell them that Tony Cutillo sent you. Go talk to my man Joe Richmond, again, my co-host out on the Blue Coats beat. If you're listening right now, you like basketball talk, and you like positivity, and you like a great vibe and great energy with some really good guests, give us a follow at the Blue Coats Beat, anywhere you get your podcast from. And make sure you give us a review too. Drop us a review. Let me know, let me know what you like. Now, last night we look at the 76ers, and I don't know if we're going to have another bad night like we did with Tyrese Maxey. Okay. I don't know if that's even possible, to be honest with you. Again, because you look at Tyrese, and he's not really a streaky player, man. Like, he's actually a really, really, really consistent player. And I was actually surprised, man. I was surprised. But again, everybody has their nights, right? Everybody has their nights. But the question I'm going to ask before we get into underrated NFL coaches, because I like to go all over on this show. Okay. And this is what I love about it. I like to go all over on the show, but the question of, right now at 12:06 a.m. is Tyrese Maxey's bad night for the Philadelphia 76ers make them think more about additions going forward? And what are those additions? Like, I know people talked about that. Was that 2028 number one pick or whatever it is? And is it going to be the one that, it's going to give us the biggest assets? Are we going to talk about trading some of our younger guys? What are we going to do? I don't know, right? I don't know, but here's my thing. I definitely think that we need a piece. Now, I don't know, quite honestly, what that piece is. Okay, I don't. I really don't know what that piece is, and that's going to be the interesting part. Is it going to be, a piece that's on a 1-year contract? Is it going to be a piece that where we have to give up a ton to get, which I honestly, I don't want that. We've given up so many pieces so far to try to get to where we need to be. And again, I'm not ready to do that all over again. And I don't want to do that all over again. Like, we should be able to add a couple pieces here or there. So if you're a Sixers fan out there right now, if you're an NBA fan in general, I'll talk all NBA. But obviously you see the bridge, that's the great Ben Franklin Bridge in the background, of the great city of Philadelphia. When it comes to a sports town, I represent the city of Philadelphia when it comes to a sports town, Philadelphia sports. And obviously I am one part of the Blue Coats beat for the Delaware Blue Coats, the NBA League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. And I just beg the question, what is your thoughts when it comes to, when Joel Embiid is out and Tyrese Maxey has an off night? Is Tobias enough? Is DeAnthony Melton, if he's not having a bad night, is that enough? Right? Obviously, it wasn't last night that the bench was not able to overcome, right? The deficit. They just weren't. And again, like I said, Maxey's not always going to be that bad, but I think that there's going to be players, I don't know who, but there's always players every year that are out there that are open. I mean, look, the year we got guys like Ilyasova, right? When we got Ilyasova, nobody really thought he was going to, but then when he came in and he really fit in and they found a really good role for him. And the only time that Ilyasova, didn't produce is when he kind of got exposed a little bit, right? He got exposed. He was being overused. Like, you get to that point, right? You get to that point where you're bringing these pieces and they're role players, right? Like, the AI days when we had a guy like Eric Snow. Well, Eric Snow was a role player, right? But when he was forced into more action than he's normally prepared for, he just didn't have it. Right? He just didn't have it. And again, that's what happens. Like, that's what happens. When you don't have it because you get exposed, right? And because you're not there playing on that same level again. And that's what happens. It's fine, right? But I don't want that to be this year's team. I think this year's team has a lot of interchangeable parts, which is good, but I think they need a guy that they can really, really say, who's this guy that can drop 20 at any given time? And I'm sorry, it's not Tobias Harris. Like, I'm not saying I don't love Tobias Harris. He's a decent player, all around good guy, does a lot. Does a lot that people don't see. But I just don't think Tobias Harris is the guy that I want to hitch my wagon to when some of my superstars are either reeling or having a bad shooting night, maybe get into foul trouble or get injured, because I don't think Tobias Harris has that amount of energy to pick it up. I just don't think he does. I think he's really good in the role he's in as being a complementary player. But for him to be the number one option on a team that needs him, I just don't think he can kind of commit to that. And I don't think he can actually overcome, some of his adversity in order to get to that point. So that's a tough spot when you're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, who are primed for a playoff run that they're going to kind of put themselves into. So again, if you want to get into a Sixers conversation, hit me up. Again, hit me up on StreamYard. Click on that link. I'll bring you live into the program. Hit me up in the comments, whether you're on X, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook. Let me know what you think. I'm dying to know what you think about this Philadelphia 76ers, because, I just think that, they definitely need somebody else. Adam says they need another superstar that could be who was that. See, that's the thing, Adam. I don't think they need another superstar. I don't. I don't think they need another superstar. I think they need, some star flex, like some star power, but I don't think they need a Zach LaVine. I don't think a Zach LaVine gets them over the top. I just don't. I don't think there's enough, like, there's not enough balls go around if you get a Zach LaVine. And Tyrese Maxey is not going to shoot, 20% or whatever he shot in that game again. It's not going to be a consistent theme for Tyrese Maxey. So you want him to have the ball. You want him to be able to create off the dribble. You want him to shoot some, fadeaways and some lookaways and some step backs. That's what you want. And if you bring a guy in like a Zach LaVine or an OG Anunoby, I don't think that these guys are going to help you, as much as you think. I think they may actually mess with the chemistry of the team more than actually help it going forward. Now Javon's checking in with a great name, which is Lauri Markkanen. I love Lauri Markkanen. I think Lauri Markkanen could absolutely be that guy. This is a guy that doesn't going to he isn't going to command, all the attention, as far as superstar status, because he's not a superstar. Okay, but he's a very, very, very good player who can defend, who can shoot the tray, who can block a couple shots, who can move the ball, who can rebound the ball, and he's good in space, right? I mean, he's got to, for his size, he's kind of freakish in nature, so to speak, right? So I think Lauri Markkanen could be a fantastic find, and it's just a fact. Like let me ask this, Javon, like how much are you willing to give up for a Lauri Markkanen? Right? Like we don't even know. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you think about it. You think about what you're willing to give up, right? What are you willing to give up? And I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't want to give up everything. Hey, here's a guy right now that's averaging 23 and a half, 8.6 rebounds, a couple assists. I mean, this is a guy, like I said, for Utah that could be expendable, right? 7 foot, can move like a guard at times, right? Plays that, can play the 3, can play the 4, maybe even give you some minutes at the 5, right? Because no disrespect to Paul Reed, I love his athleticism. He just got to get more consistent, right? He's got to get more consistent. And for a team that, may need somebody for, a stretch run, you're going to need consistency, right? Javon says Malcolm Brogdon is another guy that comes to mind too. I like Markkanen better. I think Brogdon, obviously, Brogdon's a tougher kind of player, give you, more of that grittiness. He doesn't have to, create his own shot. He actually can find space. He will defend the team's best player if needed. He will lock them down. So I think Brogdon, could be an interesting pick. He's more like in that Marcus Smart kind of territory. But I'd rather take Brogdon at this state of the game. But I really like Markkanen. I'm glad to that name because I really like Markkanen. So listen, if you have another guy, if you're listening out there right here, Heat Ratio Sports, HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo, make sure you follow us at Heat Ratio Sports. You can follow me at Tony Cutillo RRM. And again, if you want to get in the conversation, it's very easy. Number one, make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel, Heat Ratio Sports. You're liking this program, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on YouTube. And listen, you throw a comment, even on X now. If you comment on X, I will get them up on the screen now. There is a plugin for that they have, and it does work. YouTube, you can get them up there. And if you want to join live, there's a link. It's a StreamYard link. Again, all you do is click on it from your phone. You type your name in, and I can get you live on the air, audio only. Now, Javon also says for Markkanen, I might be willing to part with maybe one first-round pick, House, but I know that won't be enough. I don't want to deplete the wing depth. And that's a great point, right? Because it's like, how bad do you want Markkanen? We have a lot of depth right now. We have some expiring contracts. Marcus Morris is an expiring contract. He's going to be worth a look, right? He's going to be worth a look. House, another expiring contract. He'll be worth a look. First round pick, I don't mind. Listen, I'll be honest with you, Javon. Like, if we're going to be good and competitive for the next 2 to 3 years with the Joel Embiid and a Tyrese Maxey and whoever we add, I'll give up every first round pick, man. Like, at the end of the day, I'll trade them in all day long for a ring because, if you go back to past history and see who these first round picks are, they're no guarantee whatsoever to pan out. And if I can get a steady force right now to go and mesh with my guys I have right now to compete, I'm all in. I'm all in. And I know some people want to wait. Some people, their point is, let's kind of ride it out. And I don't want to give away these assets. But again, we're not giving them away, right? Well, we're not at the stage where we're giving anything away. We're building a championship caliber team that has to compete with some of those people in the West, right? If we get to the big dance. And I just said if, because it's a big if. I don't know if I'm sold in yet. I don't know if I'm 100% in yet. I still need a little more. I'll be honest with you, man. I was extremely frustrated and disappointed. And, I invested a lot of energy a lot of energy I invested, over the last couple years. And I can't do it anymore. So I need to be sure. I need to be sure. Another expiring contract, now that I'm thinking of it in my mind, is Tobias Harris, right? We talk about that. Okay, Javon, we're thinking of the same thing. Harris. So Javon says 2 firsts, Harris, House, and Springer to get Laurie Marketing. Interesting. I think I would do it. Because essentially, right? Essentially, listen, I love Jaden Springer. I think Jaden Springer is going to be a fantastic talent for many years to come. He just needs work and he needs to, understand the game a little more. And I think he will. So I hate to see him go, but like you said, you got to give them some kind of a younger player. House is a throw-in. He's money. Harris technically is a throw-in. He's money. He would never stay in Utah anyway. And then you have 2 firsts, right? That could be, 18 and 20 or 25 and 26. Or, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm not worried about these firsts because we honestly don't know, well, we have an idea, right? But we don't know specifically, what those picks are. I know we're not going to be one of the last teams in the NBA. So to think that we're going to get anything like a first 5 pick that we're going to give away is just, listen, it's asinine. Like my man Mike said earlier, it is asinine. It's not happening. Not happening. But listen, again, it's definitely a move that I think that we have to consider and we have to look at. And I think that if that move is there, I think that they do make it. I think that the move, something like that, is there as long as they're not getting rid of some of their prime assets and not taking on a ton of money. Because again, they have to think about the team overall as a whole and how much time they do have left. Now, let's go back to a little bit of the NFL talk. And I want to do this because I want to end on the wrestling talk because I love wrestling. That's my thing. And, I really wanted to get involved in this show. So looking at the NFL as a whole, we watch it every year. We watch teams that, they defy the odds, so to speak. We watch teams that come out of nowhere, teams that we never thought were going to be as good as they are, right? The Eagles from last year, right? When you think about it, essentially nobody really expected or predicted them to be that good. So you have the Lions this year with Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell to me looks like a little off as a head coach, right? Who's making some very questionable calls and questionable decisions. And I'm not sure if maybe he's ready for prime time, right? I don't know. I don't know. But here's what I do know. There's a couple coaches in the NFL. One of them's been one of the longest tenured coaches, in the NFL. You just watched them last night, hint. And the other guy is doing such a phenomenal job in the AFC, and his name does not get enough notoriety, does not get mentioned enough. Who am I talking about? One coach is in the AFC doing an unbelievable job, right? And the other coach is in the NFC, okay? In the NFC, and he's just starting, right? He's just starting to show how good. Oh, Jamie's got it. Jamie, I love it. That's exactly who I was talking about. Kevin friggin' Stefanski. Like, is nobody putting some respect on Kevin Stefanski's name? Like, let's look at let's just rewind, okay? What Kevin Stefanski had to endure for his tenure with the Cleveland Browns. And just think back of what he had to endure. And then when he finally thinks he's getting the culture of the team where he finds out he's getting Deshaun Watson, right? And listen, I'm a Deshaun Watson fan. I hate to see, Deshaun Watson not be able to get back, that athleticism, that near perfection kind of play from a quarterback. I don't know if we'll ever get it back, right? But because obviously I think something's off from an attitude standpoint. But Kevin Stefanski does nothing but lose players and win games. But not only does he win games, he wins over the locker room. You talk about a coach, okay, that lost his absolute fearless leader in Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was not only the focal point of the offense. But Nick Chubb was every bit of the leader of that team, the veteran leader, the guy that was in the Walter Payton Award conversation every single year. The guy that just, he didn't ask for the accolades. He didn't ask for the notoriety. He didn't ask for the attention, right, Jamie? Like, this guy just came in and just got the job done. And he suffers a horrific injury. Then what do? Now we have Jerome Ford. Who the hell is Jerome Ford? Where did Jerome Ford come from? But guess what? We have Kevin Stefanski, right? Because his blocking scheme and his offensive play calling is ingenious and doesn't get talked about enough. Who are we going to throw to? We're going to throw to Amari Cooper. Oh, by the way, he's got 2 bum hamstrings. Who are we going to throw to? We're going to grab a guy like Elijah Moore. We're going to get Elijah Moore. He's a gadget guy. Oh, what are we going to do? We're going to funnel a thing through a tight end in a David Njoku. What are we also going to do? We're going to grab a guy like Harrison Bryant, who knows how to pick up the block. Oh, and by the way, we're going to pick up the ageless veteran Joe Flacco, because I still think he has something left in the tank to be our quarterback. And again, what is he been able to do? Unfrigging believable, right? Unfrigging believable. So again, I bring him up because he's just not mentioned enough, right? He's just not mentioned enough. And if you look at what he was able to do, as far as just not the players, right? Just not the players. But how about the coaching staff, right? How about bringing in, again, this is a guy we talk about in Philadelphia, but brought in Jim Schwartz, right? And there was people around that always said Myles Garrett may have been a bust, right? They talked about Myles Garrett may have never been able to be that guy. And what does my man Jim Schwartz do? He changes the entire scheme, okay? And in the season opener, he gives a completely different look. And what's he do with Myles Garrett? Lines him up over center. Lines him up over center, right? Again, it made the Cincinnati Bengals look ordinary, right? And this is a guy, listen, again, at a point, opposing quarterbacks had a QBR of 31.5 against the Browns, the lowest in the league. Obviously, again, Garrett, stud. Denzel Ward, stud. And let's not forget who was the guy that's the GM right now. Where was he? Philadelphia. Do people remember that guy? Do people remember that guy and Andrew Berry? Do people remember Andrew Berry? Of course not, because again, he was a guy nobody wanted you to know in Philadelphia, because he was the next genius who is now, guess what, in Cleveland. He's in Cleveland. So again, it's just, it's something that you have to start to look at. And I will tell you this, right? I will tell you this before I get to the comments, which I love. Keep them coming. Love the comments. Jamie, love the comments. He says, I'm sorry if it's he or she, I'm not sure. When I see Jamie, I just want to make sure I'm calling the right person. I was shocked when Minnesota let him walk out the door. I agree, completely shocked. Javon says he had 4 different quarterbacks starting the season. Listen, DTR, right? David Njoku bowling all along with Cooper. I mean, again, all right, Jamie, my bad. All right, now I can say he. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. I just didn't want to call you wrong. I don't want to be disrespectful. So again, here's what I want to do on this show, so everybody knows. I started this. Let me put this NFL most. I got to give my damn producer. So we're talking NFL most underrated coaches. right? And I wanted to do this because I feel like too many times. I mean, Javon knows, Adam knows, especially Jamie. I don't know if you're from Philadelphia or not, if you're or if you're from another city, but in Philadelphia, there's so many hot takes and hosts that have fabricated arguments or just trying to get clicks and trying to get ratings and it's always about the now. And what I like to do is I like to bring a different perspective. I always have. I like to talk about just not Philadelphia, but the entire landscape. Like, yeah, obviously it's Philly based, Philly passionate, but I name it Philly passion because I'm passionate about so many different subjects, which you'll find out pretty soon when we talk about some wrestling, if you're a WWE fan. But getting back to the NFL, I love going back the historic parts of the game, right? Looking at the league as a whole, because not only Kevin Stefanski, right? Not only Kevin Stefanski, but how about we give John Harbaugh some love, right? How about we give John Harbaugh some love? Because again, I need to say this. And we saw John Harbaugh in Philadelphia. Another guy that was elevated straight from he was a special teams coordinator, special teams coach, and he went right to head coach. Baltimore seen so much in John Harbaugh, but we're so obsessed in the national media with the Jim Harbaugh story in Michigan and will he come back to the NFL? Who the hell cares? You have an absolute GOAT in Baltimore right now in his brother that not only has won over the locker room and the players, but the whole goddamn NFL, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. And here's what I think is so special about John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh gets it, right? He just gets it. I did a whole spiel the entire offseason when I was talking fantasy on the Sirius show. Hopefully I'll be back on Sirius in about 4 or 5 weeks, get right after Super Bowl, talking baseball and basketball. But I did a whole spiel in the offseason for Sirius about when we were ranking quarterbacks and on Lamar Jackson. And I honestly said, listen, I got a full transparency. I said, I'm not drafting Lamar, because, I don't know how that situation is going to play out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Lamar went into a really ugly contract negotiation. Really ugly contract negotiation. He went to the contract negotiations as his own representative, as his own agent, which means he went into that room and what he did was he battled up against guys like his head coach and John Harbaugh. And he probably heard some things that maybe he didn't want to hear. He probably heard coach and other people talk about some limitations they may have thought he had and they wanted him to work on, right? So he maybe took that personal. But here's the thing, man. Like, after it was all said and done and how it got ugly and it got to a point where they thought they were going to walk away and there was a lot of adversity and obstacles that they had to overcome, at the end of the day, he still knew that was his guy. He still knew how talented and how intelligent Lamar Jackson, the football player, really is. And he knew to put all of that aside and he knew just coach him up, kid. Coach him up. And keep coaching him up and keep coaching him up. And eventually he'll get back on track to where he was. And again, remember, he started out pretty soft, right? First couple games, he wasn't that great. And all of a sudden started to move on. All of a sudden started to excel. And here's a guy again, okay, that's losing players, loses Mark Andrews, right? Pro Bowl tight end. And what's he do? Here comes Isaiah Likely, another guy he's gotten ready. See, it's not about talent. It's about being ready when your numbers call. And that's what's so great about guys like Kevin Stefanski and John Harbaugh. They have guys ready to go when they need to go. How about Kevin Stefanski just getting the playbook ready for a guy in Joe Flacco, even though he knows Joe is extremely smart, a veteran of the game, but just knowing when to air it out with Joe Flacco, understanding the scheme that he needs to play with Joe Flacco, right? Think about that. I think Jerome Ford only had 22 rushing yards last week, and Kareem Hunt may have had 15. The rest were all in the air, man. And it started off slow when he threw 3 picks, but all of a sudden he came back to reality, right? He came back to reality. And that's the thing. That's the thing. He came back to reality. And once he came back to reality, he knew, listen, I can trust this guy, right? He said, I can trust this guy. And that's what he's able to do. And Kevin Stefanski, right? Kevin Stefanski, I can't say enough. That guy, man, what a job. What a job that he's been able to do in Cleveland. And that Cleveland team, again, you never know week to week what's going to happen out there. And but one thing's going to be consistent. It's going to be a product that you can get behind and that you can watch. And so shout out Kevin Stefanski. And again, John Harbaugh for being the guy that he is. Being the guy that he is, being the player's coach. So I love me some John Harbaugh. So if you have any other NFL underrated head coaches, I'd love to hear. Is there another guy that I'm leaving out? Is there a guy that I may not know, right? Is there a guy that I did not give, any kind of accolades to that I should have? Let me know who that guy is. We're gonna go to one more break. 1 3-minute break. I'm gonna play a little song for 3 minutes. We'll be back to talk some AJ Styles and to close this show out with some good old-fashioned WWE wrestling talk. And we're coming back live right here on HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo. And as always, I am your host. Give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. But again, we're talking NFL most underrated coaches. If you want to get involved in the conversation, this is our latest segment. We got about 15 minutes left. We're going to talk a little more NFL, and then we're going to parlay into some NFL talk. I mean, some WWE talk, talking about little AJ Styles. It's Royal Rumble season, right? We have so much to talk about, as I am a secret wrestling fanatic. Love wrestling. Now, Javon checks in. We were just talking about Kevin Stefanski as an underrated coach. We're talking about John Harbaugh. I could tell you what, man, Javon hit one right here, because I was watching I think it was the post game speech from Antonio Pierce, and you this is going to be a good segue into wrestling talk too, because the reason why I like Antonio Pierce is, number one, like Javon says, you could tell those guys play for him, and it's because he gets it. Like, he gets it. Like, when you play for a guy that gets it, all gloves are off, man. It's a different atmosphere, right? I don't care if you're in corporate America. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If you have an upper management, if you have a boss, if you have a superior that's been in your role and been in your shoes, whether you like them or not, there's a little bit of respect there already, because you say, okay, this cat, he understood, right? He understands, because he's played this before, right? He's worked this area before. He's done this role before. Right. And that's why I said, like, one of the things is there's a lot of great respect and newfound respect going on right now in wrestling, right? Because of Triple H. And, one thing about Paul Levesque, Triple H, Hunter, whatever you want to call him, these wrestlers respect him, because whether they like him or not, he did the rigorous schedule. He knows what the bumps are like. He understands injuries. He understands family life. He understands that they're going to need time off. And Antonio Pierce understands everything, the media requirements, what's going on as far as, with some of the referees, like some of those ridiculous calls, but he didn't get crazy, right? He didn't get crazy, and again, those guys have been through a lot in Vegas, right? They've been through a lot. Let's face it. A lot of them went through the Gruden ordeal, and then you go to Josh McDaniels, and you're thinking, man, like, what the hell is going on in this team? And then you finally bring a guy that's got a little fire in him, right? You got a guy who's just like he's an average guy. Like what I love about Antonio Pierce is, you see him walking down the sidelines, man. You could probably put a helmet on him right now. He goes smash somebody in the mouth. Like, this dude's he's a football player, man. Like, I remember, like, I liked Antonio Pierce when he was against us with the Giants, right? I mean, old school linebacker, like a Carl Banks, right, back in the 80s, a dude who just wants to lay somebody out. And, he has that mentality, right? You could see he's got that mentality. Another guy is that I love like that would be like Steve Smith. A lot of people don't like Steve Smith because of his cockiness. And I love Steve Smith. Steve Smith is the same dude. Like, Steve Smith, the same guy who played on the field, and you put him in the booth, in the analyst booth, right? In the broadcast booth. He's the same guy, which I love. I love. And there is a real big piece of respect that goes those players. So that Javon, thanks. That's a great one. Because it's funny, I was actually thinking about that. The other day when I was watching it, it's kind of because him and Harbaugh were really one of the reasons why I wanted to pick this topic to talk about tonight. But because I was saying the same thing. I'm like, I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, this guy, and he is, like, you could tell these players are they're going all out for him. Like, they'll go through a wall for him, and that's not easy to do. These are grown men. Okay. I say this all the time. These are grown men. Like, it's not easy, man. Like, it's not easy. I mean, me personally, like, I coach teenagers, teenage boys, 16, 17. It's not easy, man. Like, the good thing is, like, I'm not one of those guys. And look, no disrespect to anybody out there, but I'm not, I'm not wearing khakis and a polo and stuff like that, man. Like, I'm wearing a champion hoodie with some Air Maxes and some Puma sweats and maybe a beanie or something like that. So I kind of relate to them. I pull up and I got my hip hop going, and everybody's like who, like, what is this dude? Like, my son say, AJ, like, AJ, that's your dad? Like, but listen, I haven't changed, man. Like, that's who I am. I mean, and it's very relatable, right? So it's just like a player, right? They just came out of that element, they came out of that fire, and they're very, very relatable to the players, and I think that's a big deal. So I'm gonna put a vote up tomorrow. I like this. I'm gonna put a vote up tomorrow. So make sure you follow at Heat Ratio Sports on X. I'm gonna put a vote up and see who is voted top underrated coach. Now I'll put all three names: Kevin Stefanski, Antonio Pierce, and John Harbaugh, and we'll get to see tomorrow night, see what the outcome is on the show. But speaking of underrated, and speaking of respect, that brings me into the WWE conversation. And if anybody knows me, they know I am a huge, huge wrestling fan. Okay. Huge wrestling fan. Always been, always will be. I don't stop. And it's gone back for many, many, many years. And this is Royal Rumble season. And I saw a guy come back, one of the guys who I've idolized in the sense of a wrestler. Like, I've always watched AJ Styles' career, whether it be in New Japan, whether it be in TNA, whether it be Impact, whether it be WWE. When they brought over AJ, I still, we talk about pops, and we talk about, like, go back to that Royal Rumble. I think it was 2016, where AJ Styles debuted, against Roman Reigns, right? Yeah, Roman Reigns was waiting for him. I think it would have been like number 5, number 6, whatever. But man, when that music hit, nobody knew what it was because it was a new song. And then all of a sudden you saw Phenomenal go across the screen. They knew, they went ballistic, right? They went ballistic. And that's who AJ Styles is. That, I don't think this the program that lasted probably almost a year between him and John Cena got enough love. The program, as far as AJ saying he's the face that runs the place, basically taking John Cena and trying to drop him down a notch, and kudos to John, as always, for being a relic of the game in wrestling, no pun intended, but to be able to take that and understand how the business works and know that it's AJ's time now. I need to step back, but I need to elevate my game as well and take it up another notch, which was fantastic. I think AJ holding that belt definitely needs to happen again. But I don't like the way they changed him up. I don't know, man. Like, AJ's gold on the microphone and the one word answers now, and kind of like the backdoor discussion. And I don't like that. I don't like that AJ Styles, man. Look, if you want to be the lone wolf AJ Styles and you want to come in all black and all that, I'm good with that, man. No problem. I have no issues with that whatsoever. But you can't take away one of his best attributes, and that is being able to rock a promo, man. And that's always been AJ Styles. And you have guys like a Logan Paul. You have guys like an LA Knight. You have guys obviously like a Roman Reigns, right? Randy Orton's not that great on the mic, but to hear like a promo back and forth with him and LA Knight would be fantastic. Like, so why, in my opinion, I don't know why you take the mic out of his hand and make him more into a one word answer kind of guy. That being said, there's so many directions right now that WWE can go into, and I'm curious to see, if whoever's listening right now, 12:47 a.m. Eastern time. If you want to get live on the line for our last segment, jump in, hit the StreamYard link in the YouTube, on Facebook, on X. It'll bring you right into the program. You'll be backstage, virtual backstage, typing your name. I'll throw you up. We can have a conversation. If not, throw your comments up. But what do you think is going to happen? With this whole world title picture, man. Like, you see all the smoke and the rumors about, The Rock showing up at Elimination Chamber. What does that mean? Obviously, The Rock can't be champion. We all know that. Right, but if they're going to be setting up Roman Reigns to break the streak of Hulk Hogan, he's got to be champion to at least. I was listening to Busted Open, and they were talking about what's great show. If you don't listen to Busted Open, you're a wrestling fan, you're out of your mind, man. It's a fantastic on Sirius Satellite every day of the week. Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, Mickey James, fantastic commentary on that program. And they were saying, look, he needs to last until SummerSlam, at least 2024, to outlast Hulk Hogan's record. And if you think about it, right? If you think about it, you 100% they want to do that. They 100% want to do that because they're taking that conversation away from Hulk Hogan. They're taking it away from a guy who didn't stay in the WWE. Right? Roman Reigns will never wrestle anywhere else. You mark my words. Roman Reigns is a WWE for life. No pun intended. Okay? He is. He's for life, which means why would you want a record holder who's not for life? So now that they have this ability, they can rewrite history and take Hogan right out of those record books. And then they have no allegiance to him whatsoever. The same way, they break Ric Flair's world champion streak. Okay. They take him out of the conversation. And that's what they're trying to do. It's a business move. Okay. So if that's the business move, who takes the L at Money in the Bank, or that's another thing. Who's going to cash in the Money in the Bank? But who takes the L at WrestleMania? That's what you have to think of. Who takes the L at WrestleMania? Right? It's got to be somebody. We don't know who it's going to be. Will they do a triple threat match? Right? Here's another scenario that people don't think about. And I'm going to drop this scenario right now. First time ever. And I'm going to make everybody think about this. And this is what I love about the storytelling of the WWE. Everybody just assumes that The Rock is going to come back to take out the tribal chief and take out the leader of the bloodline and say, cousin, I'm the boss, right? Everybody thinks that. But what if The Rock joins the bloodline? What if The Rock, knowing he can't be champion, knowing that they want Roman Reigns to break that Hulk Hogan streak, what if that's a way for him to get into his contract, restraints, technically, because with Hollywood, he can only do certain things for insurance reasons, for liabilities, because you got to be able to be on set and he can't be hurt, because that's what happened last time when he was doing the Cena program. But what happens if that's a way to get around those parameters and now you make him part of the bloodline? Nobody expects that. Nobody expects that. That's an answer to your prayers, because now you have a Rock on the same side as Roman Reigns, the same family, right? And now Roman still has the belt. Rock doesn't have to take an L, right? But Rock can come out and everybody's going to think, and Rock doesn't even have to wrestle at WrestleMania. Actually, here's the best thing. The Rock could essentially, right, go into Elimination Chamber and make some kind of, I don't know, some kind of plot to where he does something to help Roman Reigns, right? Even though Roman's probably not going to obviously wrestle at Elimination Chamber, because it's going to be the chamber to see who wrestles Roman Reigns, right? Who's going to get that opportunity. So, I mean, I just think that there's so many different ways that this can go. CM Punk has already talked about the main event in WrestleMania. And I think if you think it's not going to be him and Seth Rollins, you're crazy. Those two going back and forth with their promo skills, man, forget about it. Their in-ring ability, if Punk is even 70% of what he used to be, it's a great move, right? It's a great move. So you look at that, and there's so many different scenarios, but I'm going to hold my hat on that one, where I think The Rock could come back, and he could come back in the capacity of helping the bloodline and being a part of Roman Reigns' faction instead of being against Roman Reigns. I think that's something that we have to look at. And with AJ Styles, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, one of my best wrestlers of all time, in my opinion, from a physical nature, from the promo skills, please let them open up a little more and stop giving them these one-word answers, because it just, to me, it just doesn't work. We need more AJ Styles on the microphone. So again, this is HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo every night, Monday through Friday. You can catch me here going about 11 to 1, maybe, like the best part of having your own show. And right now, only a few sponsors. Until that builds up, I can kind of do what I want, right? So I don't have to kill for airtime. This is live on YouTube. I'm making this as a syndicated audio program, to where everybody can get involved. You can click on the StreamYard link that's in the chat, get you right on, put in your name, get on your phone, boom, you're live on the air with me. We can have a conversation. You heard the great Tanya McKenzie earlier, which checked in, talking about a little Dub Nation, talk about a little San Francisco 49ers, saying, look, they really didn't want it. They didn't think they needed it. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I thought she made some really, really valid points there, when we talk about Dub Nation and Draymond Green, right? About the leeway he gets around the league. Like, when is it time to finally say, this has to stop? Because it's coming to that point. It's coming to a head, and it's something that, that everybody has to look at. Something that everybody has to look at, because again, you cannot let him get away with what he's getting away with, because these kind of scenarios will continue. They will continue to evolve, right? And that's something that we absolutely don't want. We talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, right? We talked about, can we fix the Philadelphia Eagles? Is Nick Sirianni right here on the verge of losing the locker room? The consensus kind of was, maybe he already lost it. I think he's on the verge. I don't think he lost it completely, but I think he's on the verge of losing it. Whatever's going on with that power struggle internally, whether it be him in upper management, whether it be him and the players, something does not sit right with me. Something is off. Simple as that. Something is off. And again, we're going to really, really have to look at it and think, you know what? We thought for the longest time that it was Brian Johnson. We thought for the longest time it was Jalen Hurts. When all in all, maybe it's Nick Sirianni. We don't know, but it's definitely something that is going to have to unfold. We talked about the criticism of Jalen Hurts. Is it fair? Meaning, when Jalen Hurts throws a couple bad passes, I brought up a great point on Twitter the other day. Watching that game, yeah, it wasn't pretty, right? But halftime, the first thing I have to point out, it's not about the game, not about nothing. It's about Jalen Hurts not knowing when, the play clock. No, I mean, not knowing they didn't have any timeouts and not getting out of bounds. Oh, okay. All right. I get it, Terry. That was the low hanging fruit, and he took it. And that's my issue. Like, did anybody come in at halftime talk about the interceptions that Patrick Mahomes threw, or talk about the way he displaced the ball in certain routes and didn't hit the receivers in stride? Did anybody talk about that? No. The first thing it was, well, he doesn't have any weapons, or he doesn't have guys clicking on all cylinders. But when Jalen Hurts does it, it's always about Jalen. Right? Nobody else. It's always about Jalen. And I just think that that's unfair. And that's the narrative that goes around the entire NFL. Are the Eagles fixable? A couple of people said yes. Like Javon said, checked in, said, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, which I agree. Keep it simple. If you can just keep it simple, yeah, again, you'll run the ball a little more, less plays, and obviously you'll be able to listen. At the end of the day, if you keep it simple, you protect your players in that element of turnovers, which obviously is a good thing. The live on the line, like tonight, was Tanya McKenzie. Like I said, you can give her a follow at Tanya McKenzie PR. Yes, she does a lot of PR stuff, but she also talks some sports as well. So it was great to have her on. We talked about Tyrese Maxey's bad night. Does that force the Sixers about additions? Javon brought up some great names, one specifically in Lauri Markkinen. Will we be willing to part ways with a guy like Daniel House and Tobias Harris, a couple first round picks? I would say, oh, a hell yeah. Like, that's what we definitely have to do. I think that would be a fantastic move, obviously, if he is available. Then we talked a little NFL underrated coaches. It was great. I'm going to put a vote up. Make sure you give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports on the main account. I'll put that vote up. Who's the most underrated, underappreciated coach this year? Is it Kevin Stefanski? Is it John Harbaugh, or is it Antonio Pierce? So some three great names I think don't get enough credit at all that we'll put up there tomorrow. And then again, AJ Styles returns with a new look. For one, I'm not a big fan of it. I think I needed more of him on a microphone. And again, what is with the world belt? What is going to happen next? So listen, a lot of great topics. You see the topics that are not only in the chat, but they're also in the description on YouTube, on Facebook. If you're listening to this now, I really appreciate it. I love the interaction. The live views were fantastic. The live comments were great. Tanya, for calling in. Thank you if you're still listening. That was wonderful. Loved it. Hopefully we get more and more people to call in soon. We're averaging 1 or 2 a night, which is fine. Like I said, I have some guests. I have Chris Franklin coming with me next week of NJ.com covering the Eagles. I'm trying to get, at the real Michael KB for 97.3 to talk a little Sixers, trying to get him on the line, trying to do some different things as well. So as I figure this whole thing out and, I start doing, we're going to start having some reads, some promos, because I have some sponsors that are coming up. I want to make sure that they get their accolades out there as well. But in the end, this is sports talk. This is, I grew up, listening to guys like Big Daddy on the overnights because I just wanted to hear unbiased sports talk. I didn't want to hear about the latest and greatest, like my man Sonny Hill says. I want to hear about it all. And that's what I'm trying to do here on Late Nights with Tony Cutillo, powered by Heat Ratio Sports. So as always, everybody, like I always say, man, listen, we'll be back here tomorrow night, but just throughout the day, if you could do one thing that's positive, just do it. Could be pick up a piece of trash, could say hello to somebody, could be hold a door for somebody. I just think we got to get back to being nice, right? Everybody's so miserable. Everybody's so, disconnected. Everybody's so angry. Everybody's so hateful and jealous. And just do one good thing. If we could all do one good thing every day, man, it'll take this world to a completely better place, man. And I think it'll be fantastic for everybody. So again, for me, for the whole Heat Ratio Sports family, for everybody listening now, listening earlier, and listening tomorrow on replay. As always, appreciate the support. Stay safe, stay healthy. Do one positive thing today, and we will catch you back here tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern, on HRS Late Nights with Tony Cutillo.